right. So I'm going to begin very shortly. I just want to make sure the folks who were interested in this also know that it was starting. I am streaming on YouTube right now, and basically what I intend to do is save this video after the fact, so it'll be live on my channel. It's just Steve Reinhardt on YouTube at the moment. I don't have a vanity URL, so just, if you have the link, that's where it will stay. I'm not going to interact with chat so much while I'm working. I'm basically just going to kind of head down focus on the actual two things that I'm doing today, mainly because it's a lot of work. And then toward the end, I'll kind of back up and see what folks were saying on Discord chat. I'll have the YouTube chat up, and I might kind of take a look here and there. I believe there is a delay, either like 30 seconds or 60 seconds or something like that, but there's a bit of a delay. So don't fret if your question goes unanswered for a little bit. Anyway, so let's get right into what I'm actually doing today. I have a first generation Option-O P64, and not too long ago I had a problem where my power button was kind of malfunctioning. Essentially what happened was I would push the power button on, the burrs would spin for about 1 second, just sort of spin up to speed, and then just stop. And then occasionally if I push the power button again to turn it off, it would actually spin up once more, but it wouldn't stay on. And that was happening probably, 1 out of 10 times that I was pushing the power button. And what it had turned out had happened was one of the power leads, the wire, the actual like twisted wiring had frayed and broken apart. So I wound up having to take apart the button, just the contacts and like the wiring inside the button, and I stripped off another section, just a couple of millimeters of that wire, and reattached it. However, I had mentioned this in the Espresso Aficionados Discord, and Hayden from Option-O was like, you should probably get a replacement button. We've updated that so it doesn't have those kind of like crimp style connectors anymore. So instead, I just got the new power button, which has these like quick connect terminals, spade terminals instead. So what I'm going to do today is replace my existing button with this new button, which is also a little bit more clicky than the old one, and protrudes out. Mine doesn't protrude out in use, so it's a slight difference. It looks like it should fit perfectly. So that's repair number one. The other thing that Hayden sent me was a set of sealed bearings. The very first generation P64s, and I think maybe like the second run as well, also have non-sealed bearings. So the main difference here is this has kind of like a plastic or rubberized almost cover that covers the entire bearing race on both sides. And the bearings that I have installed currently do not have that. There's like it looks almost like nylon or something, kind of connecting all the ball bearings, but the races are open on the inside and the outside. And in a previous repair, when I had to take this apart, I found that my bearings were chock full of coffee grounds. So sealed bearings are probably going to be better for just kind of staving off buildup of coffee grounds over time. Part of that was, I think, the fact that I had been using a bellows to push air through my grind chamber at the end of grinding. But, maybe some of that is also just kind of the fact that there's always going to be a little bit of coffee particles, and that's just kind of how life is for this grinder. Anyway, so I have a 2-camera setup here. Let me really quickly, actually, I'm going to change my windows over real quick just so I have kind of a half and half happening. So I have an overhead camera, so you can watch the repair kind of overhead. That also has a zoom lens, so I can get you closer or further away. If I do zoom in, I have to change my focus a little bit, but that should be easy enough to do. Hopefully that makes things kind of interesting as this repair goes by. And yeah, I'm just gonna kind of get right into it. I have most of my tools laid out already, and also just sort of a pile of of junk nearby. So I will be working as efficiently as I can to get this repair done. First thing is I'm just gonna take my stationary burr out and set it aside. I don't really need it at all for this. And then since I'm working on my power button first, oh, by the way, you can probably tell I've already taken the time to clean out the grind chamber as much as I could, because I'm going to have to remove the rotating burr carrier, and I expect I'll probably need to do some more cleaning at that point. The first thing we're going to do is remove these 5 screws on the bottom, and I believe those are 2mm hex. Oh, I was wrong. They're 2.5. And somebody's calling me. Nope. Not anymore, they're not. Where is my 2.5? Oh, here it is. Okay. I'll try to keep things in frame as much as I can. It's a little bit difficult. I do know that since I'm replacing the power button, I'm going to have to kind of make a note of like where the connector attaches to the drive controller, the like control board. So I think that should be easy because it looks like a quick connect plug. Okay, we've got our screws taken off. And now the whole bottom plate will lift off, which exposes the control board. And I believe okay. So that is that, yeah, okay. So connects there to those 2 pins, that's easy enough. And one last little plug. I know you can't really see this, it's just, there's not a lot of slack on the wires. Final thing that I have to do is remove this ground cable. What I'm going to do is just unscrew that and then rescrew the actual screw itself into place on the board, so I don't have to worry about losing it. It's stubborn today. There we go. And then I just threw it. So much for not losing it. Good bad. Okay, so I'm going to set the whole sort of lower plate aside, but what I'm going to do first is just give it a wipe down, because there's a little bit of coffee dust built up here. And I'm basically going to expect to have to clean a lot along the way. I'll be interested to see how much coffee might be built up in the grind or the motor coupler chamber, because when I took it apart that last time, took it fully apart, I found there was just a ton of ground coffee built up where the coupler is. Okay, so this is a mess of wires. Some of these are for the power button, some of them are, so like this one this guy right here is our speed controller. This is power to the power button and the plug in the back, and then ground coming from the plug. This looks like one of the leads from the motor. I suppose one of these is power and the other might be like control or something. But there's basically two leads that look like they go down to the motor. So everything over here on this side is what I need to worry about, although I will have to unplug two things from the actual power cable, which is going to be just easy. So this is where I get my actual new replacement button prepped. I'm going to take off this nut. And I have to figure out, I guess I'll get some pliers. I got a couple of little tool kits available to me here. Try out these channel locks first. It's a bit of a tough spot. I'm basically going to try to just start it with a tool and then go in with my fingers. Yeah. It's a very like small thin nut. It's only maybe like a couple millimeters thick. There we go. Okay. Got that started. All right. Now you only have the one plug on the old version to disconnect. And then here we go. Oh, no, I was wrong. Never mind. This guy's being stubborn. There we go. Okay. All right. So, you have the old button removed. And I'll zoom in and kind of show you what the problem was. So I hope you can see this, but basically the I guess it must have been this contact because this one has some tool marks on it. But basically the wire braiding kind of frayed, so I had to cut off the old bits, strip a new one, and then screw it back down into this little, I think it's called like a barrier terminal. I'm not really sure. Anyway, we don't need this old one anymore. And the new one has these nice push connects. Oops, already clipped on and everything, so I barely have to do anything. So let's go back. It's tough to gauge the focus, so I hope that that's okay. So what I need to do first is feed my wires through the hole and then get the nut on, and then I'll connect everything and then screw the button down. All right. And then, of course, have to get the nut over all the wires. Sneak them through. Oh, come on. There we go. Lost one. All right, so that's all set. I'm gonna just thread it on real quick. I just want to get the threading started so I don't have to worry about the nut anymore. Okay, so well, this is pretty tight and going to be a little tricky. I might rotate the button. Actually, you know what? In order to get this motor out, Well, actually, I don't think I need to do anything because I'm going to disconnect it from here. So maybe I don't. I don't know. We might get to that. Maybe I'll wait to rewire this until after I've replaced the bearings, because the bearings are going to be more tricky. And yeah, I'll wait to rewire until then, just in case. Just in case I need to remove stuff. So that's that for now. We'll set our old button aside, clear some space, and get ready for working on the bearings. Now I need to remove these two screws. They're pretty chunky. I think they're maybe 3 millimeter hex, maybe a little bit bigger. No, bigger. Let's see, are they 4? 4 mil. Okay. So I'm gonna take these apart. This is like step 1 to getting to the actual grind chamber. Just removing these really big chunky bolts. And this portion is pretty tight fit, so it's going to take a little bit of wiggling to get them apart. Oh wait, am I forgetting one? I'm forgetting one. There's a third one on the front, right underneath the spout. Okay. And now, there we go. Okay. All right. Got to be careful about the wires that I'm pulling through, but there. That wasn't too bad. So now my whole lower portion of the grinder is disconnected. I have my motor attached to my whole grind chamber. And what I need to do next is disconnect this flange that connects the motor to the grind chamber. So basically what I need to do is get this apart, and then the motor and the coupler are going to be exposed. And there's a lock nut in here that I'll also need to remove, for which I'm going to need a little wrench that I've lost. Anyway, it's a 2 millimeter hex wrench. It's a little bit tricky. That's just to release some set screws. And then finally I'm going to try to use pliers to remove the lock nut. And that will loose the actual rotating burr carrier in here. So step 1 is to get these nuts off, or the bolts off rather, which are also 4 millimeter. I might just need a little extra distance here. There we go. I have to say that taking this grinder apart the couple of times that I've done it has really underscored the overall build quality to me. Like, everything fits very nicely together. There's not a lot of like wiggling. Like this part, there we go. Takes a little bit of effort even to just release. So we have our motor coupler here. And pleasantly, it's not full of coffee grounds. I'm excited to see that because that means I don't have to clean it out. Basically, the way the coupler works is you have this little kind of, I don't really know what to call this. It's just like a little hunk of metal, and then there's 2 teeth sticking up. Maybe you can see that. Oh, I'll zoom in and see it. So there's this little like cylinder, these 2 teeth sticking up, and they lock into this corresponding like little brass piece, and there's pretty much another one of these on the underside connected to the lock nut. So I have to take one of those off, but the other one stays attached to the motor itself. You know, I'll keep it zoomed in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Sorry about the focus. It's really, really hard to try to focus while like looking at a computer screen in front of me. Okay, so we'll take off this piece. It's greased up. It's doing its job. I do have to take this one off because I need access to the lock nut underneath. And I believe I actually need a hex wrench for that. Got a mess of them right here. So this one. I just have to loosen these set screws. So there's two set screws that are holding the little coupling assembly onto this shaft. And once I have them loosened, I can just pick it straight up. There we go. And then one piece that I really don't want to lose is this tiny little, I don't know what these are called, but basically it slides into a little channel to kind of connect the two. So I'm just going to set these right on top of the motor aside. And then I need another hex wrench to get it at this this part, the lock nut. And what I have is, it's a 2mm hex wrench. And what I've done is I cut maybe like 2mm off the tip here, because otherwise I don't really have enough room to get into this sort of side channel next to the lock nut and get into the actual set screw. So I had to modify this wrench basically. And I think there's two of these, if I recall correctly. So I just need to loosen them a couple of turns, or really like half of a turn. Sure, this is terribly interesting. Okay, so now that they're slightly loosened, I'm going to get a pair of needle nose pliers. So it might be a little tough to see. Maybe if I tilt, it'll be a little bit easier. Yeah, there we go. So there's these three little cutouts in this lock nut that would normally correspond to like a tool dedicated to removing it. And I don't have that tool. But I do have some pliers, and what I'm going to do is take the tines of the pliers and slip them into these two channels and just carefully try to prise it off. If I remember correctly, this is also reverse threaded, so I have to turn it to, or clockwise to loosen it. And we'll see in a second if that's true. And I have to kind of wedge my fingers in underneath to catch the burr carrier. Is it true? I don't know. Because I have to stop the burr carrier from turning in order to have the purchase on the nut to actually get it off. I wonder if I need to loosen those set screws a little bit more. It was a little bit easier to remove last time once I figured out there were two set screws. So maybe that'll work. Let's see. Ah, it's not reverse threaded, that's why. Gosh. It's still pretty stubborn, but it's not reverse threaded. I guess if it's a lock nut, it doesn't really have to be reverse threaded, because those set screws will prevent it from backing off. Come on, what's going on here? Ooh, this is tough. There we go. I guess, maybe? I don't really think either of these is too tight, but maybe it was. There's no gunk in the threads that I can see, but it was having a hard time turning. Anyway, so there's our lock nut off. I don't know if you heard that just then, but the rotating burr carrier fell straight out. There we have it. There is, I can see, just a little bit of coffee built up underneath. Very, very minor amount. But I would prefer that that doesn't get into the bearings. Now, flipping it back over, oh yeah, here we go. We've got some coffee built up in there. Here's our grind chamber. You're gonna have to pardon the noise really quick. I'm gonna take a vacuum to this just to clean it out real quick. So be prepared for a little bit of noise. Sorry about that. Yeah, that'll do. I just wanted to clean up all the coffee gunk, because I'm going to get in there with a rag, and after I get these old bearings out, just to create just to prep a clean surface for it. But coffee grounds are stubborn stuff, so they just like to get everywhere. Need yet another hex. Wait, if it's not 2.5 and it's not 3, what is it? Oh, it is 2.5. Oh, there we go. Those are stubborn for sure. So there's just 4 screws holding down this little bottom plate. It's a retaining plate for the bearings. And you probably notice that there's this little kind of ring sort of extending upward. And there's a recess in the burr carrier to receive that. So that between the two of them, there's actually a recess and like an inner lip. So between the two of them, they probably do a pretty good job of keeping coffee out of the bearings. Unless, of course, you start using a bellows and just push air, air laden with coffee grounds into the bearings every time you grind. Oh, is there another piece that I'm forgetting here? It's not removing that easily, so I wonder if I have to take the spout off. There might be another screw under there. So, yeah, 2.5. Okay, I'm gonna have to take the spout off, which thankfully is just one screw for me. It's right here. Nice long screw. And then the spout comes right off. There's nothing holding this on, but I do have access to it now. There we go. That's all I needed to do. Covered in coffee grounds and a little bit of grease, so this rag is going to come in handy. The grease is from after I had cleaned up the bearings, the old bearings previously, because they were full of coffee grounds. I sprayed them down with some super lube, I think it's called, which is it's an NSF rated, like an H1. I think it's called H1. basically like incidental food contact is okay. So I sprayed them down with that to re-lubricate. Grease probably would have been a little bit better, but in this case, it's not such a big deal. So I don't know if Justin is watching, but there's 1 and 2. Yeah, they sound pretty good. Yeah, they're holding up okay. Now we get to insert our new bearings. I'm going to wipe up all this old grease. I don't think I need it because I'm pretty sure sealed bearings don't need any excess. There's like a little tiny bit of maybe like mineral oil or something on the outside. But we're going to go in one at a time. What I'm doing right now is just inspecting. I don't know if there's a preferred orientation for these. The previous ones have a V etched, like laser etched on the side of the bearing to indicate the orientation that they work in pairs. So maybe what I'll do is kind of replicate that, because these guys have the labeled side matched together and then they get inserted. So I think that's what I'll do with these, absent any other instruction. So let's see if we slide them right in. No, okay. So this was, oh, never mind. All right, there's 1. There's 2. Wow, okay, so it's a really tight fit, but thankfully they slid straight down. I was a little bit worried that I'd have to find some kind of tool to push them down into place. They have almost no room to rotate side to side. But they thankfully just slid straight down. Okay, great. So now that's the last of it done, and I just get to rebuild. So we'll start with this plate. I'm going to clean up everything as well as I can along the way. Here's my screw holes. The burr carrier is going to need a little bit of brushing and vacuuming to loose off those coffee grounds, but that should only take a second. And I'll do it aside so it's not pointed straight at the camera or the microphone. With reassembly like this, just kind of a force of habit, I do not fully tighten down all 4 screws at once. And that's just, maybe there's a little bit of shifting or a slight pivot to the plate. I want it to be as even as possible. So I kind of got all 4 screws most of the way screwed down, and then I'm going to kind of north, south, east, west, or west, east in this case, just to give them a final little bit of tightening. In the hopes of tightening it down as evenly as possible and keeping it as flat as possible. Okay, that seems good. Burr carrier, again, I'll start with the rag and see how that goes. Star pattern. Yeah, I mean, it's only 4 points, so it's not quite a star pattern, but yeah, that's the intent. A long, long time ago, I played drums, and that was how I was taught you were supposed to tune your drum heads. I wasn't any good at it, drumming or tuning, but that part stuck with me at least. Okay. That looks pretty good. So we'll drop it through, but then I gotta like flip the whole thing upside down and get that lock nut back on. Okay. Everything looks good in here. Once again, there's no coffee residue that I can see. So I'll inspect the threads. I'll set this on its side actually, because I remember the threads felt a little tough when they were being backed off. So I'll get in there with my rag and yeah. Okay, I think that's good. Now that I'm looking at it from a different angle, maybe that's just, yeah, oh, that was just a fiber. Okay. There was something that looked a little bit like bumpy almost, but it apparently was just a little fiber from this cloth. Okay. So that is about as far as I can go with my fingers. And now I have to try to just tighten it a little bit further with these pliers. What I'm doing is I'm shoving my thumb. Now that I have this hole in here, I can shove my thumb against the, it's probably a little hard to see. How do I show you this more effectively? You see the little sweeper in there? I'm just jamming my thumb against the sweeper to prevent it from turning. Okay, that should be good. Feels nice and tight. And now we're going to finish by setting those set screws again. I really have like no ability to rotate it, so it's just very painstaking and slow. And also it's really, really difficult without much room to kind of play, to actually like locate the tip of the wrench into the nut in the first place. So, not my favorite part of this job. Thankfully, I shouldn't have to do it again. All right, there's one of them. The last time that I opened this up to this extent was just shy of a year ago, I guess. Maybe like 10.5 months ago. And in that time, I have not used a bellows at all. And based on what I'm seeing here, I probably don't need to worry about coffee like ingress into the inner workings of the grinder anymore. Now that I have sealed bearings, and without the use of a bellows, I really just shouldn't have any coffee making its way into this portion of the grinder, which is great. Oh, come on. Why is this so difficult? There we go. All right. Thank goodness, that's over with. I'm so tired of it. One thing I'm going to do, if you'll pardon me real quick, I'm going to get just a little bit of petrol gel. This is just a silicone-based lubricant or petroleum-based lubricant. I don't know, or mineral spirit lubricant. Also food safe for incidental contact. I'm just going to get a little extra on here because I wiped some of that off. Okay, so this is way more than I need, but I'm just going to kind of take a dollop on my finger and get in here. What I'll do next is locate this tiny little thing. If anybody knows what that's called, that'd be kind of interesting. Okay, then we'll get this portion set back in. Okay. We have to lock that down. A locking pin? I mean, that makes sense, yeah. Sometimes those things are literal and sometimes they're not. You know what I mean? Like, some machinist at some point called it like a carry pin or something because his friend Carrie liked to use them, and that's what stuck. Okay. Everything else feels pretty greasy, so I'm gonna keep that all as is. This part is fun because when I stick the motor back down, I have to line up, you know, these two little prongs with the slot in there, which is not too hard, but the first time I did this, okay, there we go. Good. The first time I did it, it took like 5 tries. So, all right. Now we have these 4 bolts that go back in. I'm going to put the spout on after this. It's a Weber key. That's a, yeah, great name. Ah, foolish. Forgot to swap my bit. A Woodruff key. Okay. See, that's kind of what I meant. It's like, you know, who's this Woodruff person? Okay. All right, and we're gonna north, south, east, west it again. And if you're as old as I am, coffee-wise, you remember when that was a basket distribution technique. Okay. That should be good. Clean off the spout. Mine, okay, so my spout is pretty old, first generation. And one thing, you know, if I had any complaints at all about this grinder, and I really have very few, it's just that there's like some finishing issues. Like, see if I can show you this. Oh boy. I don't know how apparent this is, but there's like splotches. I'm trying to get it to catch the light right. There's like splotches in the finish, like right around here. There's also some grease because I was just wiping my greasy rag on it. And you know, it's on the front. It's exposed. It's showing. And like, this isn't just from beating it up or anything. This was as it came, but I've never really worried about it. There's also a little splotch under here. Anyway, if that's all I have to complain about with this grinder, you can probably guess that I'm pretty happy with it. All that appears to be clean. So we'll get that little bolt back in there. That was 2.5. And I don't need this thing so wildly extended anymore. Okay, that part is all set. Now we're going to get these motor leads sent back up through the whole bottom. I'm trying, actually, I'll show you this from the side. I'm trying to, the way these wires are attached, I'm trying to get them to kind of run down first so they loop back, just to prevent them from being kind of kinked as they run up the body of the grinder. I don't think they really need that much slack on them to actually like attach. But all right, so one of them has picked an interesting path. All right, this is annoying. That's a plow going by. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Nice and loud. We got like, I was shoveling earlier today. It seemed like we had maybe a foot or so of snow overnight, possibly more. And yeah, it was a lot to shovel, that's for sure. Come on. There we go. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. It feels a little weird. Oh, it feels weird because of this little pad down here that I just knocked loose. Shoot. Okay. Let me try to fix this real quick. I can't really show you this, unfortunately. There's like a little felt pad on... So there we go. I think that's okay. Nope, it's not. Okay, maybe I can show you this. There's this felt pad right here. So this kind of slides into the tube, and the felt pad kind of just fills the void, but also makes it sit a little more nicely, smoothly. And what I just did was I just crushed the whole thing. And it's also a little greasy, so I don't think the adhesive is sticking that well. I'm going to try to just wriggle this in carefully. Okay. That seemed to work. Good. Back to the bolts, the one directly below the spout is first, just because that's ever so slightly harder to access than the ones on the back. And I'm going to back it off just slightly, just to make sure I can align these screw holes perfectly. Okay, doing the back bolts now. Tighten them down fully, and then go back and tighten down the front one. All right, wiring time. So, my ground wire is in kind of a tricky spot. Let's quickly take a look at where everything has to go on the control board. So, ground wire is back here. I need to kind of, yeah, it's probably fine. It's got a lot of slack. This corresponds to this little plug right here. Adjust the focus here. So this is the speed control, plugs in right here. This is our new power button cable, which is this 2-pin right here. This is for the motor, and I don't have a lot of slack on it, so, and it connects to this 3-pin right here. This is also for the motor, which I really don't have enough slack on, and that connects to this like 5-pin. So this will be a little bit tough. You're really not going to see how everything's connected. I also, I should probably actually hook up my power from the button to the plug. And if I recall correctly, it was red here and black here. Okay, that seems nice. I think I am going to rotate this button just slightly. Yeah, okay. And then I'm just finger tightening that nut. And then I'll have to go back with this channel lock again and try to tighten it down. Yeah, it really does not want to go. I wonder if maybe the pliers would actually... Yeah, of course not. They don't open wide enough. What else do I have? I tried fitting a crescent wrench in there earlier, or the last time that I did this, and it didn't really work. I don't have one that's small enough. Maybe this other set of pliers is big enough. Yeah, it is. Okay. I'd love to know what Option-O uses when they assemble these things. They probably have, you know, a wrench that fits perfectly or something. Just something like stamped out of steel. That's all you would need. All right, I trust that button's not going anywhere. Fine by me. And we're just gonna kind of reconfigure some wires a little bit here. Make sure they've all got the room that they need. So get this under that. Okay, ground wire needs to get over here. That's where it'll be. Let's flip this way. So you need to get over here, and you guys are both about here. Okay, so going in reverse the last time, we'll do the ground first. That one had a good bit of slack anyway. Yeah. Just threw my screwdriver on accident. I'm angling the wire because, you know, this whole little channel is going to be where this section of the body of the machine goes. So I'm angling the wire just so it's out of the way as I tighten it down. Okay. There we go. Apologies that you can't see this. It's just very, very tight on space, and there's I kind of screwed up. Let me see if I can fix this. One of these wires I actually just don't have enough slack on right now because it's one of the motor wires. And it's because it got twisted as I was putting that body back on. So I think I can reroute it, but it's going to take a moment. I think maybe you can kind of see. It's this wire right here, that little white plastic clip. I can't actually pull it up above the body of the grinder right now. And that's because it actually runs from over here, kind of this way. And what I need to do is get it underneath the power button so I can pull it up and maybe earn myself like another inch of slack. So let's see how I can do this. Try to grab it with some pliers. It seemed a lot more promising with just poking. There we go. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now I can connect it. Get everybody seated back down. Seems good. And then we'll attach these screws again. Or throw them, you know, like you do. That's right. Got it all back together. But there's one last thing I gotta do, which is turn it on and see if I manage to wire it correctly. I'm not too worried about it, but okay. I have a power cord here. Oops. Well, apparently it was on already. It's making a slightly weird noise. Some kind of rattling noise. Okay. I'm a little weirded out by that rattling noise. Turn it on again. I wonder if yeah, I kind of wonder if it's the bearings. They really didn't have that much room to like wiggle side to side, but it could be it. I wonder if maybe it just needs like a little settling in. As it spins up, it sounds like it intermittently hits something. I wonder if you can hear this. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's not the sound it was making. Huh, okay. That's interesting. Okay. So the lock nut was as tight as I could possibly get it, but I wonder if that wasn't good enough. I think what I'll do, oh, there's a little bit of wobble to it. Maybe the bearings? I don't know. Okay. You know what? I think what I'll do is just kind of try to live with it for a minute. I'll put it back to use and see if anything shows up during use, or if maybe yeah, like maybe if anything shows up during use, or maybe just a little bit of use kind of gets it to settle into place and that noise disappears. We'll see. If not, I'll take it back apart and maybe tweak the bearings. You know, I did take a guess on the orientation of the bearings, so maybe that was the problem. Maybe they're not in the correct orientation. Maybe they should be reversed, or it's possible that the lettering on so like I said, the lettering of this pair, the labels, face together, and that's the intended orientation. It's possible but that those are actually supposed to be oriented like lettering in the same direction, but yeah, I don't know. I can look them up. They're there were NSK bearings, so I could just look them up and see if that helps. It might tell me something about it, but I won't really have that much use on it even if I do put it back into service right now. I was really only making 1 drink a day with the P64 anyway. I'm going to go back through chat right now and just kind of see if there's any questions or things I can talk about before I sign off. I had been paying attention to the YouTube chat, so I think I covered most of that. Let's check out what's on Discord. Nothing in Espresso Aficionados. Yeah, okay. Looks like everybody got their comments in on YouTube. It's cool. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up the stream. I'll probably report back in the description what the verdict is in terms of like what happens after I use it a little bit. Hopefully it's good. That's my hope. That noise is a little disconcerting, but sometimes noises just go away. The extra noise from tilting it was a little bit weird to me, but I don't know. Again, maybe it'll go away. We'll see. So that was the service I needed to do for the P64. Buttons working. We're all set there. Bearings might need a little bit of tweaking, and if I need to fix that, then I need to take apart the whole thing again, which is super cool. Really excited to do that. But overall, not too bad a job. It just took a little while. You know, needed a whole bunch of different bits for my screwdriver and some other curious little tools here and there, but not bad. Yeah, so I'll report back, and you know, whatever happens with this, if I have to take it apart again, I probably won't do another stream. I'll just say that I had to take it apart again. And yeah, I'm going to look up those bearings and see if that was the correct orientation or if I screwed that up. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if you have a P64, I hope this was somewhat instructive or helpful or entertaining. All right, see you next time.